Mersey is a mental health and community organisation. Our catchment area is very wide in terms of the services that we provide, so we don't just provide it from one physical location. We've got over 70 geographical locations.
We think very hard about our organisational performance because we're a publicly funded system, and it's very important that we meet the obligations set off us from the people who fund us, which is the general public. But we've been looking at driving our performance more through the notion of organisational health. Are we well led? Do we have a good and clear strategy? But what sort of became obvious is that that stuff's necessary, but it doesn't really feel sufficient to, I think, get that fantastic breakthrough moment that lots of organisations, I think, in healthcare are seeking. The surprise package out of it all for us was staff saying, but actually, you can't seek that level of change, get that level of uplift, if we still operate inside a blame culture. And of course, naturally, we scratch our heads and say, but we don't have a blame culture.
And I'd heard people tell me stories before about, if you raise concerns, if you put your head above water, you'll be moved, or something, you may be moved to somewhere else, your job might be in jeopardy, you just don't know, you worry.
Well, it was the 3rd of June 2016. It's a date that will never go from my head. I received a call from one of the senior managers asking me to go in and see her. I was met with HR and the senior manager, and they said that I was suspended from duty. I was informed that there was allegations made against me, and it started a journey which just created so much damage, really.
So I was working on a ward, doing my job as a charge nurse. I alerted to a senior manager and my ward manager that just to consider the kind of constraints that we're all under. As I was doing my job, I have to report concerns from my staff. And it was on sending that email that I then found out from my manager at the time that I was going to be moved. It didn't go down very well. I was very upset. And I rang HR the following morning, and HR's response was, has nobody contacted you? I said, I don't know what you're talking about. Has nobody rang you? I said, rang me about what? I'm coming to meet you. They said, no, you're actually under investigation and you've been taken off the wards. That was the first I knew of it.
I heard nothing for many weeks. I have various people ringing me saying, why are you off? I was trying to chase around, what am I meant to be off with? I was trying to sort of form some evidence for myself.
I went home that night really distressed. You're almost like the person who's got the plague, who's sent outcast, and you feel like an outcast, you feel like a criminal. So I came into work and I wanted to come in just to show my face around, just to tell people this isn't right.
It's difficult to know exactly at what point, but we've got to a point, certainly as a board and a team, that we thought we've got to change the way we do this. And people being suspended, investigations were taking time, people didn't feel confident actually that at the end of all that process we were getting to the root cause and actually understanding what had happened.
The real challenge is that you cannot buy a just culture off the shelf. It doesn't work that way. A just culture is not something that you have on the wall or on a PowerPoint slide. A culture needs to grow and germinate from within. Creating a just, restorative culture is a hard and long slog.
I've been at the other side when clinicians have been facing disciplinary, and thinking back, I think I could have been more compassionate.
I remember my husband to come down the stairs. I know this might sound really drastic and dramatic, but I had my life insurance policy out and I was looking to see whether, if I wasn't here, would the family be better off? What's the best option for me to take? It was just the most horrendous time of my life and my family's life. And I was just told that the incident had been investigated and there was no case to answer to, and just to come back to work.
We can sometimes think as an organisation that, well, that's finished now, but for many people it hasn't finished.
But when I came back to work on the 3rd of January, I was informed that I couldn't go back to the place where I used to work, that they would find an alternative job for me.
So there's really two ways in which you can do just culture. One would be a retributive way. You ask questions like what rule is broken and how bad was it and what should the consequences be? And it's all focused on the individual who's the supposed offender.
I contacted the executive director, Amanda Oates, and I asked to go and meet her.
I went to see Joe Rafferty and Amanda Oates, and I told them what I thought about the whole situation, about the corruptness, how I felt that there would be repercussions, that I felt scared to say anything.
I think the main challenge for an organisation like Mersey Care or any other is to see how they can start to meet hurt and harm caused in the execution of their duties, not with more hurt and harm, but actually go to a place where they can meet hurt and harm with healing.
Amanda apologised on behalf of the Trust. She thanked me because that was the only agenda I wanted to go with. The agenda when I met Amanda was to say, this is what I've been through, and let's learn and move forward from this.
And I got a letter of apology off Joe Rafferty and Amanda Oates for the way this was managed, that it was really badly managed and should never have happened.
My vision really is that we rediscover, as a healthcare provider, the importance of a compassionate approach. We rediscover the importance of relationships.
I was involved in a recent incident where I'd done something, I don't hesitate to use the word wrong, but I'd made a mistake, and it was dealt with via the new Just and Learning culture. My manager sat down with me, went through the incident, discussed the contributing factors, and from that we're going to do a lessons learned.
Mersey Care's attempt now to implement this is really groundbreaking. We actually keep the experience, we learn, patients will be safer, treated better, we all do well. What isn't there to get?
I often get the question, Sid, what is an example of an organization that gets this, that does this really well? And you know, I've always been lost for an answer. I've always said, oh, there's pockets of excellence here and there, but a single organization that gets this, really hard to find. Look at Mersey Care. Look at what these people are doing.